Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review for you as is usual. So for this one we're going to head back over to Germany and we're going to revisit probably one of the most famous breweries in Germany and indeed the oldest brewery in the world. So we're going to return to the Bayerische Staatsbrauerei Weihenstephan and we're going to have a taste of the Hefeweissbier Dunkel today. Now I've done a couple of these reviews quite recently but I'm just wanting to use these beers up because they will go off very soon. So this is why you're getting a lot of Weihenstephan at the same time. So my apologies for that, but I just don't like to waste beer, especially when it's Weihenstephan like this. But as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll take you through a brief history of the brewery and tell you a little bit about where the beer comes from, all of this kind of thing. Hopefully you'll want to stick with me for that. As I say, the oldest brewery in the world. If you don't though, simply fast forward a few minutes into the video and you will get straight to the tasting part of the video. The brewery website's in the video description for you below, as are the link to my other Weihenstephan beer reviews, so check those out if you are interested, and there will be more German beers to come on my channel. Okay, so the brewery's origins trace back to the year 725 when St. Corbinian and 12 of his companions founded a Benedictine monastery on the Narberg Hill, and thus the art of brewing was born in Weihenstephan. So the first historical reference to Weihenstephan was in the year 768, at which time there was a hop garden in the vicinity of the Weihenstephan monastery, and the owner of this hop garden had to pay a tithe or a tax of 10% to the monks at the monastery for being allowed to grow his food there. But in 955 the Weihenstephan monastery was plundered and destroyed by Huns, which actually laid the foundation stone for a kind of tradition, if you like, of the Benedictine monks. They had to kind of repeatedly rebuild their brewery from scratch, if you like. It kept getting destroyed. But in the year 1040, the beer brewing officially began in Weihenstephan after Abbot Arnold obtained a license to brew and sell beer from the city of Reising, thus marking the birth of the Weihenstephan monastery brewery. Just so you know exactly where this brewery comes from, in fact, the little town of Reising is very, very close to Munich airport, so if you do happen to find yourself on a bit of a long layover there, you can literally take a cab, and it's about, I think it's about 5 or 6 miles away, so you can go there if you find yourself on a long layover in Munich. So between the years of 1085 and 1463, the Weihenstephan monastery didn't have much luck at all. It burnt down completely a total of 4 times, it was destroyed and depopulated by 3 plagues, and there was also a few famines and a great earthquake as well that went on during this time. But following in the tradition of the Hun attack in 955, Emperor Ludwig the Bavarian destroyed the monastery in 1336. This was later repeated by the French and Swedes during the 30 Years' War, and then by the Austrians during the Spanish succession. The monks, however, didn't give up and they continued to rebuild their brewery time and again, and they also managed to refine their brewing art during this period as well, quite remarkably. So in 1516, Duke Wilhelm IV of Bavaria issued the Bavarian Purity Law, and thus only barley, hops and water were allowed to be used in Bavarian beer. This obviously came into force throughout the whole of Germany when the country was united, but the brewery was this law has had a major influence on the brewing of the Weihenstephan beer apparently. But the Weihenstephan monastery was dissolved with secularization in March 1803, and the possessions of rights of the brewery were then transferred to the Bavarian state, but the drinkers of Weihenstephan continued to enjoy the beer under the secular supervision of the royal holdings at Schleißheim. Now in 1852 the Central Agricultural School moved from Schleißheim to Weihenstephan, taking with it the Bavarian brewing students, and so in 1895 the school became an academy and was then elevated in 1919 to the University of Agriculture and Brewing, which was then incorporated into the Technical University of Munich in 1930, one of the very prestigious universities in Germany, along with Freiburg, Cologne and Heidelberg of course. But Weihenstephan thus developed into a centre of world brewing technology, and this is a fact that did massive favours for the reputation of the Bayerische Staatsbrauerei of Weihenstephan. So in 1921, the brewery became known as this is when it took its title, the Bavarian State Brewery of Weihenstephan, and thus in 1923 it began to use the Bavarian State seal as its brand logo. And you can just see that here. I'll give you a closer look at it in a second. But just to list the other Weihenstephan beers for you, that's your brief history of the brewery. The other Weihenstephan beers include the Crystal Weissbier, which is the green label, a filtered Weissbier, Hefeweissbier, which is the blue label, unfiltered. That'll be the next one I review for you. The Hefeweissbier Dunkel, this guy here, which is a dark wheat beer, Hefeweissbier Lech, which is a light wheat beer, Korbinian, which is a Doppelbock, Original, which is a Munich style Helles, and the Pilsner beer, which is a Pilsner. They also have a few seasonal ones, which is the Oktoberfest beer, which is a Märzen style, and the Winterfest beer, which is a Saison beer. They also do a Radler beer and the Original and Hefeweissbier in non-alcoholic varieties as well. So you do have a good choice of beers when you actually go and taste them from this brewery. So that's your sort of brief notes on the Weihenstephan Monastery. I hope I didn't kind of bore you too much with that, but I hope you enjoyed it. But we'll get this guy out now and get on with the tasting. I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the artwork on this one. This is the typical sort of Weihenstephan artwork. Each of these beers kind of have different colours on the surrounding labels. The Kristall and the Hefeweissbier used to have a kind of full blue label, but they've changed them to sort of this style here, where you've got the white background and the different coloured scrolls on it there. But as you can see, Premium Bavaricum, which means Premium Bavarian, the älteste Brauerei der Welt, that means just the oldest brewery in the world. Keep kind of mixing my pronunciations up there. Hefeweissbier Dunkel, and on the back it just tells you a little bit. You can see it says from the year 1040 on the label there, or it doesn't have it on the front, it has it on the back, and there you can see there's the top label. It does say on there Zeit 1040, which means founded 1040, and there is the bottle cap on this one, the standard Weihenstephan cap, just a slightly different colour, and that's the case for each beer. So let's get it open and we'll get on with the tasting here. As you can see, a nice smoky opening with the beer there. I've had this beer sitting for quite a while. I just want to kind of get through them. This is one of the problems you get when you pour German beer. You get a huge head on these ones, but that's exactly how the Germans like their beer. So I tell you what, I'll just put it in up to about here, and then we'll pour the rest of it in a minute. We'll just take a quick look at the colour of it at the moment. I'll just bring up the light and let you see that. You can see it's poured a really nice sort of dark kind of, it's a nice kind of really sort of bright amber colour, this one, a really kind of cloudy dark brown amber colour, a little bit reddish actually, a good bit of big bubbles kind of going up to the top of this beer. But it looks very attractive actually. It's, as you can see, if I put my fingers behind it, you can't see anything through that. It's quite opaque actually. It's got a solid kind of 3-finger, slightly off-white head. It's not quite beigeish, maybe more, I could describe that as being a creamy head. And I should really be drinking this out of a Hefeweizen glass. The my German viewers have been giving me a row for that, but I need to invest in that in the near future. I'll need to go back to Germany and get some proper glasses for these beers. But it looks very attractive. As you can see, this one is 5.3% on the Richter scale, if you like, the Dunkelweizen beer. So let's give it a smell and see how we get on, and then I'll pour the rest of it. So as you would expect, there's a lot of wheat and clove spice in there. You're getting a good bit of banana too, but the key difference with the Dunkelweizens is that you've got quite a heavy presence of caramel in there. So behind the kind of bready yeast character and the sweet banana, the banana is actually quite prominent in this one. It does have a tiny little bit of the sort of acidic character that you expect from the Dunkelweizens. They do tend to have a bit of kind of sort of sharp fruit flavour in them, these guys. But yeah, there's a lot of wheat in here, clove spice and sweet banana with the bready yeast character, everything you would expect from a Hefeweizen. But the kind of unique part of the Dunkelweizen, as I say, is the kind of roasted caramel malt. You nice, really kind of roasted bread, toasted bread with a little bit of caramel malt. This one has a little bit of kind of fresh grass and kind of citrus to it as well, but it does have some really quite sharp fruit character. So we'll get on with the tasting here. I'll just put the last, see if I can get any more of this into the glass. Hopefully it wants to behave itself and I don't get too much of a head on it. You have to be very careful when you pour German beers simply for that reason. And it is a very typical looking head. A lot of German beers have this. It's a very kind of very fine frothy head you see on these ones. I'm not sure how well you can see it on the camera, but you can see, hopefully I'll just check and see how well you're seeing it. It's a very kind of fine frothy convex head. The Germans absolutely love that on their beer, and they're always very insistent about drinking them out of the right glasses as well. So my apologies for not drinking this out of a Hefeweizen glass, but I'm sure it won't make all that much difference. We'll see. But this is the Dunkelweizen beer from Weihenstephan, so here we go. Yeah, much as you would expect, as I say, the key difference between this and other Weizen beers is the fact that it's got a lot of caramel in it, so you've got quite a nice roasted caramel character just sitting in the middle of the tongue there. The thing that's interesting about this one is as well, I think this is actually a little bit smoother than the other ones that Weihenstephan do. So it's a really nice beer, because I mean I tried the Dunkel Weizen from Paulaner and it was a bit too acidic for me, but this one seems to have the fruit character in it just right. There's just a tiny little bit of it. Yeah, so when you take this beer in, you're getting a nice little bit of a blast of a nice kind of roasted and caramel character that comes out just in the aftertaste. You'll feel it just in the middle of the tongue, but it's very kind of light actually as well. It doesn't feel as heavy as some of the other Weizen beers I've had from Weihenstephan. But you've got a lot of banana flavour coming out with the kind of sweet, bready, yeasty character that you do expect. There is a little bit, the spice character in this one is kind of fairly prominent, I would say. Yeah, the sort of clove spice on this one just comes out and goes, sort of attacks the very front of the tongue there, and it gives it the beer this very kind of crisp feel, and maybe that's why it feels a little bit lighter. I do think the clove spice in this one is fairly prominent. Yeah, you're getting that clove spice just, as I say, at the front of the tongue, a little bit of kind of citrusy sharpness with a bit of grassy character coming out there too. The bready, yeasty character is just sitting right in the middle of the tongue there, and then behind it is when you're starting to get the kind of roasted caramel. And towards the back edges of the tongue is when you're just getting just a tiny little bit of the acidity. As I say though, they've got it very well balanced. It's not too prominent on the acidic side of things. And I found that can be a problem with certain types of beer, with certain Dunkel Weizens, but these guys have it kind of pretty much bang on. But what else would you expect from Weihenstephan? I think there's a little bit of a nutty flavour in here as well, mixing in with the roasted character. It's not... It doesn't really have a kind of woody or vanilla feel to it, this one, which sometimes you can get in the Dunkel Weizens, but it definitely has a really kind of very kind of subtle nutty character, but it is noticeable, and it does give the kind of roasted caramel element to it a nice feel, and it kind of mixes well with the bready aroma, the bready flavours rather as well. But overall, I'd describe this beer as being kind of mid to full bodied. More mid actually, and as I say, it's quite a bit lighter than the other Weizen beers that I've had from Weihenstephan quite recently. You've seen me do a few of these reviews recently. It has a kind of mid to high carbonation. That helps bring out the clove spice character a little bit. That's where you're getting a lot of the prominence of that particular flavour in the beer. It is quite crisp, as I say, quite a bit of different character in the mouthfeel from this one from the other ones. It's quite smooth at the same time though, and it has a little bit of a dry character in the end, and it does have just a tiny little bit of kind of chalky character as well, but very, very small, not as prominent as you can get in some of the smaller batch brewed German beers. But I mean, overall, this is a really, really nice Dunkelweizen. I've not tried this style too much actually. I think I've only reviewed 2 or 3 of these beers for you before, so hopefully I can do a few more of them in the future. But I do like this one. As I said, when I did Paulaner, it was a little bit too acidic for me, but this one kind of has the flavours spot on. But then again, maybe the Paulaner was slightly off or something like that, I'm not sure. But anyway, I hope you found my beer review informative. As I say, this one is a little bit different from the Dunkelweizens I've tried in the brew pubs in Germany, and it's quite different from the ones I've reviewed for you already. I need to do more within this style, like I say, but please let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on this beer. It's always interesting to hear other people's thoughts on the beers that I'm reviewing. So I thank you again for watching my beer reviews, and please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I will catch you soon. There's another Weihenstephan beer coming up for you in the very near future, and there will be more German beer reviews, so I'll catch you soon. Cheers.